Louisiana Governor Bobby Jindal, former President George H.W. Bush, and his Secretary of State Jim Baker came to Cameron Parish on Tuesday to assess hurricane damage and recovery in the area. After a flyover of the parish, they had a meeting with the Bush-Clinton Recovery Fund Committee. The meeting was held at South Cameron Memorial Hospital, which was built in 2006 with a $2 million grant from the fund. After the meeting, Jindal, Bush, and Baker answered questions from the media.
Here, they've been ardent and consistent advocates for Louisiana's recovery, for Southwest Louisiana in particular. Certainly, this isn't their first visit here. We appreciate their continued focus on the needs of Louisiana as we recover from 4 storms in 3 years. Literally, the hospital we're sitting in today wouldn't have been built without their generosity, without their support, without the Bush-Clinton Fund. I do want to mention that President Clinton couldn't be here today, but we also appreciate his leadership, his generosity in this nonpartisan effort. You've got 2 former presidents working together, not only to raise private sector funds, but to bring the nation's attention back on the ongoing recovery needs here in Louisiana. I'll make a couple of quick comments and introduce our main guest, the former president. A couple of things. One, obviously, the president has been able to see the resilience, the endurance of our people. I know in his time in the air, viewing the parish, his time on the ground, talking to administrators, local officials here, he has been able to see the resilience, the commitment from people here in Southwest Louisiana to rebuild. One of the points that we've made over and over is that it is important for the country that Southwest Louisiana rebuilds. This is a coast that helps provide energy and food, not only for Louisiana, but the entire nation. We highlighted 2 issues in particular for the President, for the Secretary, that we would appreciate their help bringing back to Washington. The first is the ongoing issue of the elevation maps. We want FEMA to use the best science, the most accurate maps, to guide the reconstruction, the rebuilding of Louisiana. Our concern is if they insist on using these inaccurate maps, that could actually impede the recovery process. Indeed, it could lead to the de-obligation of ongoing projects. Our people want to build safer and stronger, but they want to do so based on the best available science, the best available maps. The second issue is the cost share. We want to make sure there's consistency across these 4 different storms. We don't want to impede the recovery by requiring local officials to have to document whether the damage was caused by Rita, by Gustav, or by Ike. We simply want them to be able to rebuild and recover so that people can go on with their lives. There were many other issues discussed with the President and the Secretary, but I want to let them speak. Let me introduce our former President, a great leader. Let me also thank him on behalf, not only representing the fund, but also the great people of Texas. They were very generous in our recovery, even as they went through their own storm. So we want to thank the people of Texas. They sent their National Guard, their faith-based groups, their private sector efforts. We thank the people of Texas for being such great neighbors through 4 storms in 3 years. No further ado, please join me in welcoming our former president, our constant friend, and a great leader for the recovery of Southwest Louisiana, former President Bush.
Thank you, Governor. I was at the Houston Rockets game last night. They handed me a check for $100,000 for this recovery fund, and in the process they beat the Hornets. So I don't want to cause any hard feelings here, but we're thrilled the governor is here. We have great respect for him and his leadership, not only in this matter, but in the way he's handling all the difficult problems of the state. I'm very pleased that my longtime dear friend Jim Baker is at my side. He's done much of the work on this Hurricane Ike deal. And I want to thank our committee, several of whom were here as members who helped us and will help us in the future. So we're blessed with, and then I will just comment on the spirit of this place. We had a most marvelous presentation from the assistant attorney, what is she, Jennifer? Just unbelievable presentation about the resilience of this place. It was so moving and just reiterates for me how this place, Cameron, will come back. But now just turn it over to Jim and just thank all of you for your interest. It's tough going in this economy to raise the kind of money we want to raise, and really the kind of money that you do need to raise. But we're doing pretty well, our committee is, and we'll start dispersing the funds a little later. But I'll now turn it over to Jim Baker.
Well, I'd just say briefly that I would like to second a couple of things that President Bush said. One is our thanks to Governor Jindal for taking time out of his busy schedule to be with us here today. And secondly, to acknowledge the grit and the determination and the never say die attitude of the people of this parish, and the people, for that matter, of the Texas and Louisiana Gulf Coast, because we experience these tragedies from time to time, and we always seem to find a way to come back and overcome them. Frankly, this has not been easy this time, and it's not been easy because the attention of the national press, the local press to some extent, but mostly the national press, was diverted right after Hurricane Ike, and it was diverted in part to the presidential election, but really primarily to the economic tsunami that we suffered in our economy here in the United States and indeed in the global economy. So it's been harder to raise money this time than it was on the prior efforts that President Bush, former President Bush, and former President Clinton combined on. And that's regrettable because this was the third most destructive storm in the history of the United States, and the estimates of damage come in at around $27 billion. So we're under no illusions. There's no way we can raise the kind of money privately that is needed, but every dollar, we took the position when we started this effort that every dollar we raised was a dollar that wouldn't be there if we didn't do it. So we're continuing to work. We're still hopeful that we're going to be able to raise some fairly substantial money. We've raised to date $2.7 million. 2.2 of that we have cash in the bank. 500 of it we have in the form of pledges that we think are good. But we're keeping on. And as President Bush just said last night, we got a $100,000 check. We're very hopeful that we may get some contributions from some foreign countries. We've all weighed in with these countries that contributed to America's problems in prior hurricanes. One country in particular contributed $100 million to Katrina. Yet on this go-round, they're experiencing the same economic problems that a lot of countries are around there. But we think we can do better than we've done so far. We're not going to give up. The people of Cameron and the Louisiana and Texas coast haven't given up. They didn't give up after Hurricane Audrey. They didn't give up after Hurricane Rita, and they haven't given up after Hurricane Ike, and neither has the Bush-Clinton Recovery Fund. So we're going to keep after it.